We got one of the wild ones with us here right now. We're going to show you a little footage of him in a second.
You're a young kid and you trust people who are putting stuff together.
Your name, sir?
Mike vallely.
So I went over and I watched him, and he had pretty good weight transfer, good dynamic. I thought it was like one of the biggest career mistakes anybody could ever make.
I'm from way inland, so, you know, I just use my environment and just skate and make up tricks.
I was born on June 29, 1970, and raised in the flat, sprawling township of Edison, New Jersey. I grew up the middle child of a hard working class family. I guess I was like most kids in my neighborhood. I played Little League baseball, and I did all the other things most kids do. I tried to fit in. And as I dragged myself through my adolescence, through school, I grew further and further away from my peers and their ambitions, and began to feel more and more different and alone. That's when I discovered skateboarding.
Tell us about it, Mike.
Well, you see, it all started one day when I picked up a skateboard.
For the first time in my life, I had direction, meaning, and purpose. And skateboarding gave that to me. When you're 14 years old, that's some important shit.
As a parent, you'd like to see your kids do very traditional things as far as, you know, go to college, have a career. But it was real clear to us very early on that that wasn't Mike.
My first experience in the 80s, seeing someone perform very well on one of those old dinosaur boards, was Mike Vallely. Everyone was still really trying to get their ollies dialed, the street ollies, you know, that was coming into the picture big time. I think on the West Coast it was being established, you know, by Ugans and Nadas and all those guys. It blew me away that Mike had actually get that rock off the ground, man. I think it was a log.
Mike was like this kind of icon from the next town over. I used to just hear rumors about him, like doing crazy stuff, like jumping off cars, doing crazy inverts. he was real motivating to go, try new stuff or to learn new tricks.
Yeah. Makes it slowly.
Outdoor Sports has skateboard fever, and it's hotter than ever. At T&F in Edison, you'll find only the biggest names in skateboards. Powell Peralta, Vision, or let T&F build you a sleek custom board from quality components. Check out the latest skateboard fashions, shoes, and protective gear. T&F has everything for high-performance skateboard action. T&F Outdoor Sports also has a wide selection of hunting and fishing gear. Visit T&F Outdoor Sports at 239 Plainfield Avenue, Edison today.
In the late winter of 1986, my family moved to Virginia Beach, Virginia.
I just remember we were going to Virginia Beach contest, and it's same guys, same format, same thing. We've been doing the same thing,
At one point, everything got focused from this big half pipe to this parking lot and focused on this one kid.
I mean, he had pretty good weight transfer, good dynamics, a lot of good linear stuff happening.
He had this kind of wild style, kind of aggro. And Neil Brenner, he just came up to me and was like, "There's this guy in the parking lot, you gotta see, he's the best." We went to the parking lot looking for him and couldn't find him. And he goes, I'm telling you, he's standing on his hands, he's walking around with his board on his feet. And I was like, what are you talking about, like a street plant or something? And so I told Stacy Peralta about him the next day because he was coming, and Stacy and those guys checked him out, and I guess they talked to him and sponsored him, like, right there or something.
A month later, I found myself on an airplane for the first time in my life to skate in the Amateur Street Style Championship at the Oceanside Pier.
Yeah, he was just a little goofy-looking little, white kid from the East Coast, and he had just a weird style, and
all that anybody could talk about. Did you see his hand plants? That's all you heard about him, really. The street before that was just, people just did slappies and went off of ramps and, at street contests, and then hand plants that took it all topsy-turvy.
You gotta remember, not many people were doing ollies. It was all early grabs or bonelesses stuff. And,
Gons and Nadas were sort of at the top, just doing the newest stuff, and then Mike came out with his own brand of street skating, which he developed.
Somehow I won the competition, and things just took off from there. In just a few months' time, I was on the cover of Thrasher, filming a small part for the Powell Peralta video Animal Chin, doing photo shoots with Transworld, skating with Gons, Nadas, Lance, Guerrero, and collecting new sponsor after new sponsor. And it was all so dreamlike, so unreal, and I had to continually pinch myself, and I could never really believe everything that was happening to me. Looking back on it, what really put me on the map was a photo Grant Britton took of me with Mark Gonzalez and Nadas Koppis. The photo showed Mark pointing to a recently busted nose, and Nadas pointing to a cut I'd just gotten on my chin. But the skaters that saw the magazine took it as if they were pointing to the new member of their elite group of street skaters.
We've got one of the wild ones with us here right now. We're going to show you a little footage of him in a second. Your name, sir?
Mike vallely.
And where are you from, Mike?
Edison, New Jersey.
Okay, and I see you brought your board here, and we're going to see a little footage of you in 1 second. How long have you been skateboarding?
Almost 2 years now.
2 years, that's all. Did you surf originally too, or you just...
No, I'm from way inland, so, I just use my environment and just skate and make up tricks.
Do they have any skateboard parks up by you, or you got to make up your own?
No, we just street skate and just do whatever we can with whatever we got around us.
What are you going to do when this weather hits in and you won't be able to skateboard no more?
Well, basement skating.
Basement skating?
When it snows, just go to places where there's overheads, skate under there.
Right up in the basement. That's an interesting. I didn't even think about that. Boy, I'm stupid.
After being sponsored in '86, I began traveling and doing demos all over the country. Added to my magazine coverage and Powell Peralta advertising, I'd become a household name in the sport. And so in 1987, I dropped out of school, and turned professional. The following summer, my pro model board was scheduled to come out, and so Stacy Peralta and Craig Stesick came to my hometown of Edison, New Jersey, to film me for a feature part in the new Bones Brigade video, Public Domain.
No, I'm pretty stoked.
What I thought would be a dream come true, being featured in a Bones Brigade video, turned into a total nightmare. I was rushed through shots, forced to settle for first takes, and never allowed to spend enough time in any one place to really get warmed up and do what I could do. I was constantly told that he was getting what he needed, but I knew it wasn't what it should be.
And it was the dog days of the Jersey summer, you know, hotter than hell and just abysmal. It was just a punishing gig.
You like the fly. Uh-oh, that one didn't flash. That one didn't flash. Give this guy some time.
What's up, man?
During that period, there wasn't really any methodology behind any of it. I think we just kind of went out and did it. If there was a point at all in going to Washington, D.C., it was because they were arresting skaters at the Grant Memorial and forcing poor Mike to skate through this environment where, of course, it was completely illegal to skate anywhere. I'm sure was something that he wasn't pleased with.
The one moment that sums up the entire experience for me is the infamous graveyard run. I told Stesick and Peralta that there must be some mistake. There's no skate spot here, but obviously they had other plans. So I was told to run through the graveyard while Peralta followed me with his camera. I weakly protested. It was the only time I complained throughout the entire filming ordeal. But I immediately was put in my place by an angered Peralta, so I put my head down and followed orders. But I was dying inside the entire time, and it's symbolic really. For as I ran through that graveyard, skateboarding, my dream and hopes for my career died at that very moment.
Okay.
You're a young kid and you trust people who are putting stuff together and they have an idea and you just go with it and it's not you and you get dragged into it. Yeah, you got a lot of shit for that, constantly. I could see how it would be bummed, for sure.
Through the years, many people have talked highly of my skating Public Domain and referenced it as an important video, in part for me. And it was. I've come to actually like the segment, and I reckon that Peralta did capture something in those 3 days. He captured an injured young man, trying his best to make the best of a bad situation. There's something about that that I've learned to like.
Stacy brought up a crew of skaters, you know. He brought up Stevie and Scott Foss and worked with Jay Smith and Mike McGill. And Tony came along, he worked with Missouri and stuff. He had a little niche of guys that he really molded and helped, and I became one of them. And he spent a lot of his time and effort in that. And that was a long period of time, like 9 years, say. And then skateboarding is changing, and there's a new group coming up, street guys, and Mike was one of them. And obviously, Stacy couldn't go back where he was 9 years ago and go to the movies and skateboard with Mike and everything. Mike, I felt, always was kind of on his own.
I quit Pal Peralta in February 1989 at a trade show in Long Beach. So, at the age of 18, after only a year and a half in the sport, I quit the biggest, the best skateboard team in the world to help start a small skater-owned and run company. And it was something that shook the skateboard world to its foundation.
You want to know what I thought about Mike Vallely when he went to World? I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was like one of the biggest career mistakes anybody could ever make.
My first interaction with Steve was at a demo in New Jersey in the fall of 1986. somehow we connected. It was at this demo that Steve asked me to skate for Venture Trucks, as he was the team manager. So as things broke down with my relationship with Pal Peralta,
Why would I want to run through a graveyard? Never.
Rocco was there to pick up the pieces and reassemble them.
So I talked with Mike. Mike, you having trouble, huh? And he goes, yeah. I'm having trouble too. And so I'm thinking, well, he'd probably be kind of crazy just to start from ground level because no one had started their own company, really. And Mike's going, well, you know, what do you think? What do you think? Back and forth. And it kind of resolved like, if you will, I will. I was like, yeah, if you will, I will.
In March of 1989, Rodney Mullen, Jesse Martinez, Steve Rocco, and I established World Industries. World Industries was the antithesis to the corporate-hyped and flashy companies of the late 80s. With Steve, anything seemed possible. He did things differently, and it was a refreshing change.
Rocco would just let everyone do whatever they wanted, and he could, you know. I mean, I did the World video just by, like, I asked him, are you guys going to do a video? And he's like, yeah, I want to. I've been trying to shoot stuff. And I was like, well, I'll do it. And he's like, okay. The trip I remember the most was going back east with him. And I remember getting off the plane at JFK Airport.
Good. Kennedy Airport, New York. Biggest airport in the world.
I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour, but heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job and then I found a job, and heaven knows I'm miserable now in my life. Why do I give valuable time to people who don't care if I
The biggest things I remember though is how mad he would get really tense to be around him sometimes because he'd get super pissed off and like throw his board, or the other one he did a few times, like it was, he'd throw his board up in the air and just punch it.
Got the world on my ass and I'm gonna jump fast. Be the first, won't be the last. I've got the world up my ass.
What supposedly started as a company that had skateboarding's best interest in mind became overshadowed by Steve's political agenda, which I wanted nothing to do with. The politics bored me. Steve's disrespect for the sport disgusted me, and in my heart I knew I couldn't remain a part of World Industries in good faith. When I left World Industries, Rocco ran an advertisement in Transworld Skateboarding magazine, attacking my personal character and that of my girlfriend Anne, who's now my wife. This ad was mean. It was a blatant attempt at career assassination, and it almost worked.
That was sort of the, you know, the incident that broke the camel's back in the sense that we really started to look at our advertising policy and what was acceptable, what wasn't, and the fact that what companies run as ads also reflect upon us.
The first time I met Ed Templeton was in 1988 in Huntington Beach. Nodis and myself went down there to skate with the Gons, and Ed and Jason Lee showed up where we were skating. Ed and I became friends, and it was skating with Ed that reminded me just how fun skating was, and why I'd ever started skating in the first place.
I want to tell you a little story. It makes me warm inside. It's about some friends growing up. All the things they tried. A man coming back, came on the head. They were much up there for. I think it was too much screaming.
about good intentions and bad timing.
But at this time in skateboarding, it really seemed like, your career might be over because everything was so based on the newest tricks and the newest guy and who was cool and who wasn't cool and stuff. And if you weren't in that group, it really seemed like you're done with,
Skateboarding's gravy days were over, and to start a new company in the darkness of the early 90s had failure written all over it. I was extremely in debt to the IRS at that time, and bad news just kept piling up. TV went from one backer to another and never realized any success in the market, and this put a real strain on Ed's and my relationship. Eventually, it would lead to the company's demise, as well as the friendship Ed and I had known. It's something I really regret having happened. Ed and I had become friends and skated together for all the right reasons, but in the end, money and business bullshit drove us apart. We were better than that.
A lot of things happened within a couple years. Losing the company, losing our friends, moving in his parents' house, getting pregnant, having a miscarriage. It was an overwhelming year. We grew up a lot that year. So much stuff went into perspective that year.
The course my career had taken, the problems with TV, the fact that my wife was pregnant and we were dead broke, the IRS knocking on my door, all put an incredible amount of stress on me. And in the summer of 1992, I almost died from it. I internalized all of it, all the pain and stress, and eventually it ate me up inside, and I found myself in a hospital with a bleeding ulcer. It was a condition I had for some time, but fearfully ignored. All that I had been through had caught up to me, and the future was so uncertain, but I had a life to live, a baby on the way, and I felt I still owed skateboarding my best effort. When my daughter was born, it was like I was reborn. Everything seemed new. The world seemed a little lighter. All of the anger and bitterness about where my career had gone slipped away, and I felt rejuvenated. Her birth was the beginning of the rest of my life. In 1993, my career should have been over, but that was all the inspiration I needed. I went back to Pal Skateboards as determined as ever to make a difference, to make skateboarding fun again.
How far back can y'all remember?
I was with Pal for 4 years, the longest I'd ever been with a board company. And though I struggled with being there on a daily basis, there were plenty of good times and good things about being there. Pal gave me the platform to rebuild my name in the sport, and was a vehicle for my thoughts and ideas about the sport and its future. And it was Pal that gave me the audience to communicate a lot of what I was thinking and feeling. So as my name got stronger in the market, my ties to Pal and George became looser and looser. And suddenly in 1998, I found myself standing at a crossroads with them, and I wanted to go one way, and George wanted to go another.
The part of the industry that's difficult, I guess, is the politics that comes from having a lot of people competing to be in the same place at the same time, having a lot of companies. But skateboarding is incredible. It's the politics of the industry that get lame, to put it mildly.
Leading Pal was hard, but I didn't feel like I had any other choice, and so I pushed forward like I've always done before. I followed my heart. Actually, when I first took on Mike, as soon as the rumor started floating around that he was going to be skating for Black Label and I was going to be working with him, a lot of people thought I was crazy because they only know his reputation. And very few people, I think, really knew Mike as a person. In all my years of working with pro skaters, he's the first guy really that stepped up and took charge of his own situation. That only makes my job easier. The best thing I like about him also is the fact that he is a true individual. He's not following anybody. He's a straight-up guy, and he just takes care of business.
In my eyes, you know, I've watched Mike come up from just being a little kid that, you know, an amateur sponsored am, and now being one of the top pros in the world. And I can totally see that the guy, he has not only like the strength and the determination, but also the intelligence and the style that what it takes to really be successful.
He's still the same exact person he was back then, you know, just not so angry and putting more of that determination and anger into his writing, his poetry, his being a dad, his surviving as a man in this world.
He's definitely gone beyond anything we could have imagined. I think, you know, even above and beyond that, it's that, you know, his family is so important to him.
Been on top, he's been on the bottom, he's had everybody behind him, he's had everybody against him. He's certainly one of the more resilient people I know.
Skateboarding has always been there for me, and I'm thankful for it. I believe in it. I'm a skateboarder and I'm proud of it. No one or nothing can take that away from me.